The autumn air carried the hum of life around the Crestwood Mall. Teenagers laughed by the food court, music played faintly from car stereos, and shoppers shuffled in and out, bags in hand. Among them walked Marcus Reed, a 17-year-old honor student with a quiet demeanor and sharp mind. His hoodie was pulled up, not because he was hiding, but because it was cold. He was there to pick up a new pair of sneakers for his younger brother's birthday. Marcus never liked malls much. Too many people, too many eyes. But today was different. His mom had worked overtime just to give him a little extra money. He wanted to make his brother smile. As he stepped out of the store, receipt in one hand and a shoebox in the other, 2 police officers near the entrance started whispering. One pointed, the other adjusted his radio. Marcus noticed it but shrugged it off. He had no reason to worry. Until one of them shouted, "Hey, you, stop right there!" Marcus froze mid-step, confusion in his eyes. "Sir, is there a problem?" he asked, voice steady but respectful. "Don't move!" The officer barked again, his hand already on his weapon. Before Marcus could even respond, he felt a violent shove from behind. His shoebox flew into the air, landing hard on the concrete. People around began to gasp, pulling out their phones. In seconds, Marcus was slammed against the ground, knees on his back, his face pressed to the pavement. "I didn't do anything," he tried to say, but the weight on his neck cut his voice short. "Stop resisting," one officer yelled, though Marcus wasn't moving. His hands were out, palms open. He was trembling, terrified. Shoppers stopped to watch. Some filmed, others turned away, but one voice, an older woman's, broke the silence. "Leave that boy alone. He didn't do anything." The officers ignored her. One of them pulled out a pair of cuffs. "We got the suspect," he muttered into his radio. "Black male, hoodie, early 20s. I'm 17, Marcus gasped. "What suspect?" "I just bought shoes," the officer sneered. "Yeah, sure you did." In that moment, a black SUV rolled to a stop near the entrance, then another, and another. Within seconds, 10 black vehicles lined the curb, engines running. Doors opened in unison. Men and women in suits stepped out, each one flashing a badge with FBI printed across the top. The crowd murmured. The officers froze. A tall man in a grey suit approached, voice calm but commanding. "Step away from him." The lead officer looked confused. "Excuse me? Who are you?" The man didn't answer with words. He held up his badge inches from the officer's face. "Special Agent Samuel Brooks, FBI. That's not your suspect. You just assaulted a federal witness." The words hit like thunder. The officer's jaw dropped. A what?" Agent Brooks knelt beside Marcus, his tone softening. "You okay, son?" Marcus nodded weakly, eyes wide in disbelief. I didn't do anything, sir." "I know," Brooks said. "You just got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time." By now a crowd of hundreds had gathered. Cameras were up, voices whispering, phones streaming live. The once cocky officers looked pale as the FBI agents surrounded them. Agent Brooks stood tall again, eyes like steel. "You two," he said to the officers, "weapons down. Hands visible. Now." The officers obeyed without hesitation, stepping back slowly. "What's going on?" one stammered. "We were told there was a robbery suspect matching his description." Brooks glanced at Marcus's hoodie, then back at them. "You mean a young black man minding his business?" The officer didn't respond. The silence was crushing. Marcus sat up slowly, rubbing his wrist where the cuff had dug into his skin. "Why are they saying I'm a witness?" he asked softly, his voice trembling. Brooks turned to him. "Because 3 nights ago, you walked past something most people didn't even notice. A van parked outside a government building. You told your mom about it, and she reported it. That van was part of a major investigation." Marcus blinked. That was you guys?" "Yeah," Brooks said. "And now you're under FBI protection, which means anyone who touches you." He looked sharply at the officers. "Answers to us." The crowd erupted with chatter. Phones streamed every second. Someone shouted, "They tackled an FBI witness," and the words spread like wildfire. The 2 officers looked like they wanted to disappear. One whispered, "We didn't know." Brooks didn't raise his voice. "You should have asked before. You tackled a kid." He turned to another agent. "Get this young man checked out, and make sure this footage doesn't vanish. We'll need it." As Marcus stood, supported by an agent, he looked around at the crowd, faces filled with shock, anger, and awe. He felt both exposed and powerful, like the world had just shifted under his feet. Brooks placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You're not alone anymore, Marcus. Not now, not ever. The teen swallowed hard, trying to process everything. From being pinned to the ground to being surrounded by 10 federal agents, it felt like a nightmare that suddenly flipped into something unreal. And as the flashing lights from the FBI SUVs painted the mall entrance in red and blue, one thing was certain: this story was far from over. Because the footage was already viral. And America was about to find out who Marcus Reed really was. By sunrise the next morning, Marcus Reed's name was everywhere. #Justice for Marcus trended across social media platforms. News anchors replayed the same 30-second clip from 5 different angles, the one where the officers slammed him down before the 10 FBI agents swarmed in. Every frame became a symbol, every freeze frame a question about justice, race, and power. At home, Marcus sat on the couch, still in shock. His mother, Danielle Reed, paced across the living room floor, her phone buzzing non-stop. "They're saying your video's got 4 million views already," she said, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. "Baby, I told you that mall was no good." Marcus barely heard her. His mind replayed the moment over and over, the shout, the tackle, the way the concrete had scraped his cheek. He could still hear the crowd gasping, could still feel the weight of the officer's knee on his back. On TV, a reporter's voice broke through his thoughts. Sources confirmed that the teen tackled outside Crestwood Mall was actually a protected witness in an ongoing FBI counterintelligence investigation. Marcus blinked. Protected witness? He looked at his mother. What does that even mean? I didn't sign up for anything. Danielle sighed, rubbing her temples. That man, Agent Brooks, said you saw something important, something they needed. Marcus tried to remember. I just saw a white van parked outside that office building last week. It looked weird. No plates, tinted windows, and the engine running for hours. I didn't think much of it until you told me to report it. Because I raised you to do what's right, Danielle said, her voice firm. And now they're saying that van was connected to something big. A sudden knock at the door made them both jump. When Danielle opened it, Agent Samuel Brooks stood there, dressed in the same grey suit from yesterday. Behind him were 2 other agents, one male, one female, both wearing serious expressions. "Morning, Mrs. Reed." "Marcus," Brooks greeted, stepping inside. "We need to talk." Danielle's voice tensed. "You said my son would be safe, but now his face is all over the internet." Brooks nodded. "That wasn't supposed to happen. The footage spread before we could control it. But that might actually help us." Marcus frowned. "Help us? How does me being tackled help anyone?" Brooks took a deep breath. "Because now everyone's watching, and the people we're after know it too. That video just made you untouchable, Marcus. No one can silence you now without drawing the whole country's eyes." Marcus exchanged a look with his mom. He didn't feel untouchable. He felt terrified. The female agent stepped forward. "Mr. Reed will be assigning protection around your home and school. You're officially under federal supervision until this investigation concludes." Danielle's eyes widened. "Federal supervision? My son still has classes. He's supposed to graduate next year." Brooks softened his tone. "We'll make sure his education continues. But right now, safety comes first." Marcus sighed, staring at the muted TV where his own face stared back from a news ticker. "I didn't ask for any of this." Brooks sat across from him. "You didn't. But sometimes, doing the right thing pulls you into the center of something bigger." As the agent spoke with his mother, Marcus's phone buzzed non-stop. Texts from classmates, reporters, people he'd never met. "You're a hero, bro. They had no right to do that to you. Keep your head up, King. Yo, CNN's talking about you right now." Marcus scrolled, overwhelmed. Then one message froze him. It was from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have talked. You have no idea who you're dealing with." His throat tightened. He showed it to Brooks immediately. The agent's expression hardened. "That's what I was afraid of," he murmured. Danielle's voice rose. "What does that mean?" Brooks stood. "It means whoever owned that van knows we're closing in, and they're watching." The air in the room grew heavier. The female agent moved to the window, scanning the street. "Sir, we need to move them. Now." Danielle clutched Marcus's arm. "Move us? Where?" "Somewhere safe," Brooks replied. "We'll explain on the way." They were escorted out the back door into a dark SUV. As the car pulled away, Marcus looked back at his small brick house, disappearing into the distance. He had never imagined leaving home like this, surrounded by agents, running from people he didn't even know existed. As they drove through the city, they passed the mall again. A small crowd had gathered near the exact spot where he'd been tackled. Protesters held signs, "Justice for Marcus," and "Stop the bias." News crews were everywhere. Marcus pressed his face to the window, whispering, "All that for me?" Brooks nodded. "You became a symbol overnight, son. But that comes with weight. People will fight for you, but others—" He paused. "Others will want to silence you." Marcus turned toward him, eyes sharp despite his fear. "Then I guess they'll have to get through you first, right?" Brooks smiled faintly. "That's the plan." They reached a gated facility outside the city, an old warehouse turned into a federal safe house. Inside, it was stark but secure. Cameras lined the hallways. There was food, beds, and reinforced glass. Marcus sat on the cot, looking at the ceiling. "Do you think they'll ever stop chasing me?" Brooks leaned against the wall. "Maybe not. But if you're brave enough to tell the truth again, this time in front of the cameras, we might bring them down for good." Marcus hesitated. "You want me to go public?" "Exactly," Brooks said. "You're the one person they underestimated, the one they can't intimidate anymore. You saw what no one else saw. And if you're ready to talk, this country might finally see what's been hiding in plain sight." Outside, sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Marcus clenched his fists, a new determination forming in his chest. He wasn't just a scared kid anymore. He was about to become a witness the whole world would listen to. The next morning, Marcus woke up to the faint hum of security cameras in the safe house. He hadn't slept much. The room was plain, white walls, steel door, a single narrow window. Yet what weighed on him wasn't the space, but the knowledge that his life had changed overnight. When Agent Brooks entered with 2 coffees, Marcus was already dressed, sitting at the small table. "Morning," the agent said, placing 1 cup before him. "You ready to make history today?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "History? I'm just a kid who saw a van." Brooks chuckled softly. "That's what Rosa Parks said when she took a seat. What you witnessed ties into a case we've been chasing for months. A network of contractors stealing federal data and selling it overseas. That van was one of their mobile servers. You saw it before they wiped it clean. Your description led us to the right lead." Marcus blinked. "So, I helped the FBI without even knowing it?" "Exactly," Brooks said. "But that also makes you dangerous to them. They thought no one noticed. Now they know a teenager did." Before Marcus could respond, the female agent, Agent Rivera, stepped in with a tablet. "Sir, media's requesting an interview. CNN, ABC, and even BBC want to speak with him, but we've got a problem. The 2 officers who tackled him? They're claiming he resisted arrest." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Resisted? I didn't even move." Brooks nodded grimly. "We know, but their department's in full damage control mode. The chief issued a statement saying they acted on a credible tip about a suspect. They're trying to rewrite the story." Marcus's pulse quickened. "So they get to lie, and I just sit here." Rivera placed the tablet in front of him. "You could sit quiet, or you could speak up. The country already saw what happened, but they haven't heard your voice." He stared at his reflection on the dark screen. His hoodie, his tired eyes, the bruises on his cheek. "If I talk," he said softly, "they'll come after me harder." Brooks nodded. "Maybe, but you'll also expose everything they're trying to hide. You'll be under our protection every step of the way." Marcus exhaled slowly. "Then let's do it." Hours later, they set up in a secure federal conference room. Cameras, microphones, agents posted at every corner. When the red light on the main camera blinked on, Marcus took a deep breath. The reporter began softly, "Marcus, millions have seen the footage of what happened outside Crestwood Mall. Can you tell us, in your own words, what that moment felt like?" Marcus swallowed hard. "It felt like I wasn't even human to them. I told them I didn't do anything. I begged them to listen. But they looked at me like I was just a threat, not a person. I thought I was going to die there." The reporter's eyes softened. "And then the FBI arrived?" "Yeah," Marcus nodded. "That's when I found out I wasn't just some kid at the wrong place. They said I'd seen something important, that my eyes caught what no one else noticed." As he spoke, clips from the incident played behind him, his voice overlapping the footage of officers forcing him down, the crowd shouting, and the moment the FBI SUVs pulled in. The nation watched, transfixed. Brooks and Rivera stood in the control room, monitoring live reactions. Within minutes, hashtags surged again, hashtag stand with Marcus, hashtag truth to power, hashtag no more silence. When the interview ended, Marcus removed the mic, shaking slightly. Was that good enough? Brooks smiled. That was more than good. You didn't just defend yourself. You gave a voice to every kid who's ever been treated like they don't matter. Rivera's phone buzzed. She frowned. Sir, we've got chatter on encrypted channels. Someone's angry about the interview. They're saying he should have stayed quiet. Brooks's expression hardened. They're scared now. That means we're close. Marcus looked up. Close to what? To finding the people behind that van, Brooks replied. The same people who tipped off the officers. Someone inside law enforcement fed them your description. Marcus's eyes widened. You mean it was a setup? Brooks nodded. They wanted you scared, discredited, maybe even silenced, but instead you spoke. You flipped their plan upside down. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Rivera said quietly, Sir, local police are holding a press conference this afternoon. They're doubling down, saying they had probable cause. Brooks rubbed his temples. Of course they are. They're protecting their own. Marcus clenched his fists. Then I'll protect the truth. That evening, the world watched as two conflicting press conferences aired side by side, the local police chief defending his officers, and Marcus's interview playing simultaneously across networks. The contrast was undeniable. One side spoke in rehearsed lines, the other spoke from raw truth, and the people believed the truth. Thousands gathered outside Crestwood Mall that night, holding candles and signs. Some wore shirts that said, I am Marcus. Others chanted, no more lies. In the safe house, Marcus stood by the window, watching the live stream of the crowd chanting his name. He turned to Brooks. I didn't mean for all this to happen. Brooks placed a hand on his shoulder. Change never starts on purpose, Marcus. It starts when someone refuses to stay silent. Rivera entered with a folder. Sir, new intel. We traced that anonymous message sent to Marcus. It came from a police server, encrypted but local. Brooks's face darkened. So it's true. Someone in that department's dirty. He looked at Marcus. You ready to finish what we started? Marcus nodded, eyes fierce now. I'm ready. But this time, they're not tackling a scared kid. He stared at the flickering light of the protests on the screen, determination hardening in his chest. They're about to face the witness they tried to break. The morning broke with a sky heavy and grey, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Inside the FBI command center, Marcus sat across from Agents Brooks and Rivera, his eyes sharp and resolute. The boy who'd once trembled under a police officer's knee now carried the weight of a nation's attention, and something deeper, purpose. Are you sure you're ready for this? Brooks asked, his tone cautious but respectful. Marcus nodded firmly. They wanted me silent. Today they'll hear me loud and clear. Rivera laid out a stack of documents and photographs across the table, images of the van, surveillance stills, and encrypted data the FBI had recovered. Everything connects to one source, she said. A corrupt network involving private contractors, stolen data, and a few local officers who looked the other way. And the men who tackled you? They were fed a false description, from inside their own department. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. So they were pawns? Brooks nodded grimly. Yes, but pawns that nearly destroyed an innocent life. We're taking it public today. You'll stand with us at the briefing. The idea made Marcus's heart race. With the FBI? On camera? Not just the FBI, Brooks said. The Department of Justice, the Attorney General, and the nation's top networks. The world will see the truth unfold live. By noon, Washington, D.C. buzzed with anticipation. Outside the federal building, cameras lined the steps, reporters jostled for position, and protesters chanted Marcus's name. He stood beside Brooks, wearing a crisp suit the agents had bought for him that morning. The bruises on his face had faded, but the fire in his eyes hadn't. When the press conference began, the Attorney General took the podium first. Her voice was calm but commanding. Today, she said, we address an incident that has sparked national outrage and the investigation that uncovered something far greater. What began as a wrongful assault on a young man has revealed a criminal web that reached deep into local law enforcement. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Cameras clicked like thunder. She continued, "Thanks to the courage of a 17-year-old witness, Marcus Reed, we were able to expose a conspiracy involving data theft, insider corruption, and obstruction of justice. The individuals responsible have been taken into custody." Gasps echoed. Screens behind her displayed mugshots of 3 officers and 2 contractors in handcuffs. Among them were the very men who tackled Marcus. Brooks stepped to the microphone next. "We often say one person can make a difference," he began. Marcus Reed proved it. He didn't carry a badge, a title or power, only truth. And truth is what brought us here. Then Brooks turned, motioning for Marcus to step forward. The boy hesitated, then moved to the podium. His hands trembled slightly as the cameras focused on him. A sea of faces, reporters, agents, protesters, watched in silence. He cleared his throat. "I was scared when those officers threw me to the ground," he said quietly. "I thought it was over for me. But when those FBI agents showed up, I realized something. The truth still means something in this country. People still care. And if you stand for what's right, even when you're small, they can't silence you." He looked straight into the cameras. "I don't want anyone to go through what I did. I don't want any kid to feel like their skin color makes them a target. I just want to live in a world where justice doesn't depend on how you look." Applause broke out, soft at first, then growing, spreading like a wave through the crowd. Reporters lowered their cameras to clap. Agents nodded in quiet respect. Brooks's expression was proud but solemn. But as the applause swelled, Rivera's earpiece crackled. "Sir," a voice said urgently, "suspicious movement in the crowd, south side. Possible threat." Brooks's face tightened. "Get him inside." Now, before anyone could react, a man in a grey jacket pushed through the barricade, hand reaching into his coat. The crowd screamed. Secret Service and FBI agents lunged forward, tackling him to the ground before his weapon could be drawn. Chaos erupted for seconds that felt like hours. Marcus froze, staring wide-eyed as agents secured the area. The man's coat spilled open, revealing a badge, local law enforcement. Rivera cursed under her breath. Another one of theirs. He tried to silence him, Liv. Brooks's jaw tightened. "They still think fear will win." Marcus turned to him, voice steady despite the adrenaline pounding in his chest. "Then they haven't learned who I am yet." Within minutes, the threat was neutralized and the conference resumed, even stronger. The crowd's cheers became chants of solidarity, louder than before. The image of Marcus standing unshaken beside Brooks spread across every major news outlet that night. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the federal skyline, Marcus sat quietly in Brooks's office. The day's events replayed across every television screen in America. "You did good today," Brooks said softly. "You didn't just speak, you made them listen." Marcus smiled faintly. "I just told the truth. Sometimes," Brooks said, "that's the most dangerous thing a person can do." Rivera entered holding her tablet. "Sir, the president just issued a statement, commending Marcus for bravery under pressure. There's talk about a scholarship fund in his name." Marcus's eyes widened. "A scholarship? For me?" Brooks grinned. "For every kid like you who was told to stay quiet." For the first time in days, Marcus felt something deeper than fear, hope. He stepped to the window, looking out at the city lights flickering across the horizon. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think the world didn't see kids like me. But now, maybe they finally do." Brooks placed a hand on his shoulder. "They see you, son, and they'll remember you." Outside, the streets echoed with chants, "Justice for Marcus. Truth wins. Stand tall." And for the first time since that cold afternoon outside Crestwood Mall, Marcus Reed smiled. Not because the fight was over, but because he had learned something powerful. The truth doesn't just survive, it fights back. And now, it had a name, Marcus Reed.